Hello, my friends. I had a really amazing question posed to me earlier today, and I want to address it here for those who are in this boat. If you don't struggle with self hate, this video is not for you, so don't worry about it. If you do, stick around. So, the question, paraphrasing, is the question I took away from this is how do you love yourself when you hate yourself? Like, how do you do that? And that was my journey. Self love started for me from a lifelong self hatred fest. And at the time when I was in recovery and really beginning to recognize that I needed to love myself in order for neuroplasticity to work, that was my biggest challenge, was overcoming the self hatred. I still remember that time very clearly, even though I was honestly incredibly dissociated at that point in my recovery because of how intense the experience was of overriding the self-hatred. So I have a couple of tips for how to look at this and how to do this practically. So one is know that really for the purposes of recovery, all love is being willing to put your brain into positive neurochemistry. Like I say often, to the brain, love is spelled DOSE, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And it's likely to feel more like taking care of your grouchy grandpa or your neighbor's dog who you don't really like very much, but you're a good neighbor, so you're a good person and you're going to do it anyways. That's kind of what it feels like when we start out. We're kind of like pushing past all how we feel to act into a certain neural chemistry. And we're saying my intention here is to love myself, but there's no lovey-dovey feelings, I can tell you that. Not at all. Another thing that's really helpful that I did, and I encourage others to do as well, is watch something like Louise Hay's self-love meditation. At some point, meditations, she did a lot of work on that. At some point in your journey, or something along those lines, because one of the things that she says that I found really helpful, she says it so matter-of-factly, like, you've tried hating yourself, you've tried criticizing yourself, why don't you try loving yourself? Like, that didn't work. Why don't you try loving yourself and approving of yourself instead and see what happens? And that felt like safe for me and my limbic system when I was kind of on that journey of like, oh, it's an experiment. We're not like committing to this forever. And another wonderful perspective I got from a different mentor on my journey was the journey informs the destination. We're not going to arrive in a place of health if our journey is fueled by hatred. Those things aren't generally linked. Love and health and well-being are much more connected. Hatred and fear are usually not associated with health, even physical health. Those are not the vibrations of health. So those are a couple things. And the last thing that honestly is the most powerful one in my personal experience was suffering. I started loving myself because I couldn't handle how much suffering I was in when I was hating myself. That's why I started. It wasn't working and I couldn't handle the pain I was in. So I felt like I was not forced, but definitely shoved, pitchfork in the butted toward love because there was nothing else. And it worked. When I did it, it worked really well. And I entered into this amazing brain state where my symptoms disappeared, for at least periods of time. And it was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. I feel amazing. And that felt really good and it became addictive. But honestly, most of my own personal growth, the intention of love was there ever since I realized that was what I needed. But along the way, it's honestly just been hitting points of like, I can't handle this much suffering anymore. So I need to learn to say I deserve good things without having to suffer to realize that. And that's valid. It's okay if that's what gets you to that point where you're willing to change your approach. And I want you to know that, like, however you get there is fine. And suffering is a really valuable motivator in this journey. So valuable. So those are a couple practical things. And day to day, it's just a matter of being willing to do your practice and treat yourself again the way you would someone that you're making a choice to love, even when you don't feel that. Whoever that is, however you think of that. And that was how, that's another great method for healing your relationship to your body as well. Treating it like you would a dog that you're in charge of taking care of. It's like, okay, well, I want to make sure that you're safe from harm and you're well taken care of and you're brushed and you're fed and you're watered, etc. But it's not like you have a tremendous amount of affection for that dog, that animal. You're just like, well, it's my job to take care of you. I'm going to do a good job. That's it. You don't need anything more than that. Intention and just being willing to do the work. Eventually, when you act into love, the feeling of love comes and the reality of love comes. And it is it is the greatest reward. It is the only thing worth living for, in my opinion, is love. It's absolutely lovely. So that's it for tonight. I'm super tired, so Pardon my scatteredness, but just wanted to put that out there for those who struggle out with self-hatred, because it's hard. It's really hard to overcome that in this journey. So you have my encouragement and heart behind you as you make that slow journey from hatred to love.